Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game preview Everton versus Brentford at Goodison Park tomorrow afternoon. A massively important game of football for Sean Dyche and Everton Football Club, who currently sit inside of the relegation zone, 18th in the Premier League table with 22 points, just 1 point above Southampton and Bournemouth, who sit below them. Also, positively, maybe, if we want to look positively at it, if Everton are to win tomorrow and other results are to go our way, it would put us on 25 points, which would put us 1 point behind Nottingham Forest in 15th place. But obviously that would mean Leicester City, West Ham United and Leeds United all losing games or certainly dropping points. Brentford having a decent season themselves, currently sitting in 9th position above Chelsea in 10th. They've played one less game as well than Chelsea. Currently 24 games played, 9 wins, 11 draws, 4 defeats. Only the 4 defeats all season, which is really impressive when you look at the Premier League table. Only Newcastle and Arsenal have had less defeats than Brentford this season. Manchester City tied with the 4. Brentford, of course, currently on 38 points, tied with Brighton, and just 3 points behind Newcastle United, who are currently sitting in 6th. So Brentford have had a really good season so far this season. Obviously, we know the reverse fixture ended 1-1 earlier on in the season. Another game of football that Everton were ahead in and somehow managed to throw away. Another game very similarly to Nottingham Forest, really, where it was a case of, can we see this one out? Can we get over the line and get a really important away victory? And obviously that wasn't to be the case. I think it was Anthony Gordon who scored quite early on in the game, and Brentford equalised with only 5 minutes to go. So yeah, a really difficult game, of course, that has to be said. I mean, if you look at Brentford's recent form, they recently beat Fulham 3-2, which was a really impressive win for them. That was, of course, on Monday night. They'd drawn to Crystal Palace at home the week before, drawn with Arsenal away, which again, really impressive point at the Emirates. Beaten Southampton before that, drawn with Leeds, beaten Bournemouth. The last time they actually lost in the Premier League, interestingly enough, beat Liverpool at home, beat West Ham away, draw with Tottenham. The last time they lost in the Premier League, according to the results on the internet, is some time ago. I'm just trying to find it. It might even be before the World Cup break. 4-0 they lost to Brentford. They lost to Aston Villa in October. Is that right? That can't be right. Surely they haven't lost a Premier League game since October. If not, it of course just further highlights the challenge of tomorrow afternoon, and also the importance of tomorrow afternoon as well, because that draw with Nottingham Forest last weekend really means that Everton can't really afford any other result other than a win tomorrow. Now, obviously, we're at Goodison Park, so that is of course a benefit for Sean Dyche and for those players. I think if Everton are to remain in the Premier League this season, it will be because of our home form, and it will be because of our ability to pick up points at Goodison Park. I really don't hold out for Everton to get anything away from home between now and the end of the season, and that's not me saying we won't, and that's not me saying that it's impossible for us to go and get points away from home, but I just don't. As somebody who goes to pretty much every away game and travels up and down the country and to watch Everton pretty much everywhere, I never really go into an away game anymore thinking, yeah, we can get something out of this game. Every game just feels like, we're going to walk away disappointed or certainly a little bit, as I said, like Forest, where we felt like we'd dropped a couple of points. So, the games at Goodison are the ones that we really need to be focusing on and focusing on, to win as well. And maybe had the board would have made the tough decision in November when we lost twice to Bournemouth, maybe we'd have beaten Wolves at Goodison, maybe we'd have beaten Southampton at Goodison, maybe we'd have beaten Leicester at Goodison, but obviously the board done what the board do, and that's sit on their hands until some of these position becomes completely untenable and then make the decision. And that means that Everton have lost 3 or 4 games there that I firmly believe under Sean Dyche we would have won, just because of the teams that we were playing and the fact that they were at Goodison Park. So that means that when we play sides like Brentford at Goodison and Villa at Goodison and other teams who are doing quite well, and Brighton on another side who are doing quite well, and it's not necessarily a game against the side that are in and around our current position, it puts a lot more pressure on these games for Everton to go out and get points. And, I don't look at Brentford and think, right, this is another relegation scrap. This is like when we played Leeds, or this is like when we played, this is like when we played Southampton. I look at this game and I think this is a bit similar to when we played Brentford a few weeks ago, or maybe even Aston Villa. We're coming up against a really, really solid side here. And for me, it's going to need a really, really good, solid, tactically, spot on Everton performance for us to get the 3 points tomorrow. But the 3 points is ultimately the be all and end all for me. I don't think a point is good enough when you are at Goodison Park and you are playing sides that are, again, mid-table, and people take mid-table as a negative, but it really isn't. For a team like Brentford to be sitting mid-table in the Premier League, not lost the game since October in the Premier League, is absolutely outstanding for them. They've got a brilliant manager in Thomas Frank who's done an absolutely wonderful job, and this will be by no means be a game that I'm walking to the ground tomorrow thinking, yeah, we'll absolutely batter these. If we were to win this game, I will come out, really, really pleased, because it will have had to have been a difficult and really strong performance by Everton. Having said that, we've put ourselves in a position now where we have to win these types of games, and I said this after Nottingham Forest. I had a couple of people talking to me after Forest and saying, how do you feel on that result, how do you feel on that performance, and a couple of people's opinion was that it was a good point because we were away from home, we were playing against Nottingham Forest, it was a decent point. And my argument against that, my counter argument was, it's only a decent point away from home if you are winning the games you are expected to win at Goodison Park. I fully believe in going to Nottingham Forest away and picking up a point and being able to sort of walk away from that situation and say, that was a good point, that was a decent point away from home, I'm happy with that. But not when you've lost to Southampton at Goodison, not when you've lost to Aston Villa at Goodison the week before, not when you've lost to Wolves at Goodison earlier on in the season. You can't go away from home, be winning twice against the relegation rival, lose, drop points in that game through your own mistakes, and then come away saying, well, it was an alright point, when the games at Goodison that you're expecting to win, you're not winning, and in fact you're losing. So those points dropped against Nottingham Forest last weekend effectively pile even more pressure on this game as one that I think we're all looking at thinking Everton have got to go out and win. And it's not as easy as thinking, well, we're playing Brentford at home, so we should be, that should be okay. And it is really mad, because there is still, for me, certainly for me as an Evertonian, I have this sort of subconscious arrogance with Everton where I'm almost having to consciously take myself out of my, 15-year-old mindset of Everton playing these types of teams at Goodison Park, your decent mid-table sides at Goodison, and winning, because I would expect under David Moyes and, even in the years under Roberto Martinez before he went absolutely shite, you would expect to beat these types of teams at Goodison. That's no disrespect to Brentford whatsoever, but my expectation, especially with David Moyes, was that we would pretty much beat anybody at Goodison other than the top 4 or 5 teams, and even them we'd beat a couple every now and then, and away from home we might pick up a couple of points, etc. But if this was 15 years ago, which of course it is 15 years ago, it isn't 15 years ago, I would expect Everton to be going into this game and winning, but I would have expected Everton to go in and beat Aston Villa at Goodison. I would have expected Everton to go in and beat Southampton, and we know that isn't the case now. So yeah, I'm not particularly looking forward to this one, because I think it will be difficult. The title of the live stream is, will Dominic Calvert-Lewin be available? And of course Sean Dyche had his press conference yesterday, and he was asked directly about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to which he effectively, he didn't really give an answer. He maybe edged more towards him not being available, but he didn't 100% confirm him not being available. He spoke about his fitness. He spoke about the need to ensure that he's ready, and when he comes back, he's ready to come back. He said he's back training, and that the club have yet to make a decision as to whether or not he will play against Brentford. But he's moving in a positive direction. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has actually just tweeted a picture of himself. Only an hour ago, of a picture of him training today with Yerry Mina with the caption "Way back, feeling good." So, look, whether or not Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be involved tomorrow, we will have to wait and see. And if he is involved, what capacity that will be, we will have to wait and see as well, whether it's starting or whether it's, maybe coming off the bench for 15, 20 minutes to try and make an impact towards the end of the game. I don't know. But one thing is for sure is, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is fit, then for me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, should be playing. However, is Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit at the moment? I don't think he is, and I certainly don't think he's match fit or match sharp, and that ultimately is the issue and the conundrum that Sean Dyche is going to have tomorrow. But I'm not quite sure I can watch another 90 minutes of Neil Maupay working hard and running around, but not really offering much. Or, I was going to say Ellis Sims, but let's be honest, it won't be Ellis Sims that gets the nod. So, I mean, to look at this positively, you do have to look at the last game, and you do have to take some positives from the last game. And I think one of the biggest positives from the last game was that we scored 2 goals, which is seemingly impossible for Everton at the moment. And when we attacked, we looked a little bit more fluid, and we looked a little bit more confident. We also looked like, for at least 45 minutes of that game on Sunday against Forest, we were getting at them, and we were confident, and we were going for them. I'm not quite sure whether that will be the plan tomorrow, because, as I said, Brentford are a good side, and in a much better side than Nottingham Forest, and in a much more comfortable position than Nottingham Forest, and are coached well, and are managed well, and seem to be well drilled in what they're doing. Obviously, they've got some good quality players in there as well. Wizard, who of course is a forward, is somebody that steps up in big moments for them. They've of course got Ivan Toney playing. Whether or not he should be playing is a different question, but he is playing. He's available, and we know his ability in front of goal. And they haven't really got many sort of oh my god superstar names, Brentford, but what they have is a really, really solid side, and a really solid team, and a team ethic, and a team spirit, and they've got a group of players that clearly believe in the manager, and a manager that clearly believes in the group of players, and that that ultimately means that they could comfortably turn up at Goodison Park tomorrow and beat Everton without an issue, regardless of whether or not they've got a big superstar in there. And I suppose this is where Sean Dyche earns his coin, isn't it? It's games like this in which Sean Dyche earns his coin, because ultimately this is one that I think a lot of Evertonians are expected to win, not through the feeling that Brentford aren't a very good team or Brentford aren't doing well at the moment, but just the feeling that this is a home game that at the start of the season you'd look at and think, I fancy Everton to get something out of that. And how many of those home games have we had this season where we haven't gotten anything out of? So whether or not Brentford are doing well or playing well or in a good position or haven't lost a game since October, it's all really irrelevant. Everton are in a position to not win this game, in my opinion, especially given the 3 or 4 fixtures that follow this, which are against sides that we could easily come away with nothing in every one of those games. Now, don't get me wrong, this is Everton, so we could also easily win every one of those games, and we'll all be sitting here scratching our heads, but there's every chance that we don't win any of them, and we're in a really, really dangerous position come mid-April, early May. So, yeah, it will be difficult. It will be really difficult. Is it one that I'm confident going into? No, but I'll be brutally honest, I'm not confident going into any Everton game this season, and especially not at the moment, because I just think we're absolutely crap at the moment, and it's almost painful to watch us. It's almost painful to do these these match previews and try and find some form of positivity or something to latch onto to be positive about, because there really isn't a lot at the moment, given Everton's persistence in not seeing games out, and not very often being in positions to see games out either. So it will be tough, but as I said, it's almost sort of do or die, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, we're not in a position yet where if we lose this game, we're down. And I remember playing Brentford at Goodison Park last season, which was the game before the Palace game, and we all knew if we were to win it, we would, solidify our Premier League status, but we didn't. We ended up losing it, and, a couple of woeful refereeing decisions went against us, and you're sort of sitting there thinking, oh, it was a really, really, really harsh game of football. Hopefully this one is different, and as I've just mentioned there, 3 points could be absolutely massive for the Premier League table and for where we are in the Premier League table as well. I mean, as I said, we currently only at a point above the bottom two, but if you look at the games that other sides have got, Leeds United have got Brighton at home tomorrow, which will be an incredibly difficult game for them. West Ham United play Aston Villa at home on Sunday, which again a tough game. Villa in a decent side at the moment, and Leicester City have got Chelsea at home as well. Again, one that they might fancy themselves in considering Chelsea's form, but still a difficult game. So the 3 teams above us that we could potentially overlap tomorrow have all got difficult games. Granted, they're all at home as well, so Everton can't really afford to miss this chance. Everton can't really afford to lose this game, and those other teams take advantage of their home advantage and win their games, because then that puts us in a really, really, really uncomfortable position. So yeah, listen, ultimately we need to win, and we could be playing Brentford, we could be playing Prime Barcelona, or we could be playing Boca Juniors. It doesn't really matter. It's on Everton, and it's about Everton, and it's about Everton going and winning this game tomorrow. Let's get into my predicted starting 11 before we move forward then. Again, this is going to be sort of a mosh, whatever, as to what I would go for and what I think Sean Dyche will go for, because ultimately those are 2 very different things. In goal, Jordan Pickford. There's absolutely no point in me sitting here and talking about Jordan for any longer than I need to, because he's obviously going to play in goal. Left back, I would actually persist with Ben Godfrey. Now, Sean Dyche had his pre-game press conference yesterday, and he was asked about Vitaly Mykolenko, and he said Vitaly is getting better, but he's still overcoming the illness that kept him out of last week's draw with Nottingham Forest. Again, mixed opinions on Ben Godfrey's performance last week. I thought there was a couple of times he looked a little bit out of position. There were a couple of times he was caught a little bit. However, generally, I thought his pace, helped him out a lot. I thought his physicality helped him out a lot. And I don't think he did any worse than what Vitaly Mykolenko has done for the last 3 months. So I'd personally keep Ben Godfrey in there at left back. Right back will be Seamus Coleman. The manager said Nathan Patterson is progressing well and doing well, but very unlikely to have any involvement tomorrow. Centre-backs, I'd actually go with James Tarkowski and Yerry Mina. Obviously, Conor Cody has been out of the starting 11 for a few weeks now. And I don't particularly think he's done much to warrant going back in just yet. And I also don't really see this obsession with Michael Keane. And I don't think Michael Keane's been treacherously awful in the last couple of games, but he has made mistakes that have led to goals. He has positionally been, not where he needs to be, and therefore Everton have conceded goals. He did it, against Nottingham Forest last weekend, and when you are in a relegation battle, those mistakes can be the difference between, winning a game and not winning a game, as we seen last week, and that's the difference between picking up some really important points and not doing so. For me, if Conor Cody's not being picked for this because of his performances and his form at the moment, then I just don't see how Yerry Mina isn't being picked, because Yerry Mina for me is so much better than what Michael Keane is, and I just think it screams a little bit at the moment of Michael Keane being chosen because he's got a relationship with Sean Dyche, and because Sean Dyche likes him, as opposed to actually his ability as a centre-half. Maybe he doesn't want to pick Yerry Mina Sean Dyche because maybe he doesn't think he's reliable enough, or he's not quite what he wants. But Yerry Mina, for me, has got to play tomorrow. You've got to get him on Ivan Toney, and you've got to, basically tell him, wind that kid up all game. Into the midfield then, I'm going to assume it will be a 4-3-3 because I can't really see it being anything other than a 4-3-3. Would I like a 4-4-2? Yes, but I don't see it. I'm going to go with Onana. I'm going to go with Garner. And I'm going to go with James Garner as well. Taking Abdoulaye Doucouré out of it. Look, the reality is for me, Duke scored last weekend, and I suppose his performance overall wasn't too bad, and maybe therefore that's harsh to take him out. But the reality is Abdoulaye Doucouré made a mistake last week, which ultimately led to a goal. And I think in every game over the past few weeks, although he's generally played well, he's made mistakes, or he's had moments where it's cost Everton, and you know, listen, he probably will play tomorrow, and I don't think I'd have much of a complaint about it, because James Garner's match fitness probably isn't exactly where it should be. But I just want to see something new. I want to see James Garner. I want to see what he can bring. I want to see his ability. I want to see him given a run in the team, because we don't know ultimately what he can or what he can't bring, and he might come in and absolutely light the world on fire, and might be the difference between us winning games and not winning games. He might come in and he might be, you know, nothing other than just an half decent midfielder, and we might be sitting here going, well, okay, at least we know what he is now. But I don't think you can really afford to have somebody like him on the bench and not quite know what he can bring you. Do I think the manager will go with it? Realistically, no. I think he'll go with Takore, but that's just what I'd like to see. I thought Garner was much better last week as well. Onana was really, really poor last week, but the kid's 21 years old, playing every game of football in a team that's really struggling, so I don't really hold it against him too much. And then front three, I'd go with McNeil one side, Iwobi the other, and Damari Gray. I thought Damari Gray offered a breath of fresh air last weekend. He wasn't unbelievable. He obviously scored the penalty, which was a really, really well taken penalty, but I just thought he generally caused more of a problem for centre-backs than what Neil Maupay or Ellis Sims have done in the time that they've had. Iwobi, similarly, not really lighting the world on fire at the moment, and if we had another option on the right, then I'd be fully behind Alex Iwobi being taken out of the team, but we haven't got another option on the right, so therefore, unless you put Gray on the right and put Maupay or Sims up front, then, you know, Alex Iwobi's going to play, and then McNeil on the left, who for me is, you know, being Everton's best player over the course of the last 2-3 games, whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not. He's put in performances that, you know, we can't really turn our nose up at, so he plays on the left as well. There you go. That's my predictions. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. There's absolutely no doubt this is going to be an incredibly difficult game of football, but one that Everton, because of the position that they're in and because of the games that they've lost already this season that they shouldn't have lost, there's no choice. We've got to go out and win this game, whether they're a good team, whether it'll be a difficult game. We've got to do everything we can to win it, and that means being solid, that means battling, that means working hard, that means giving everything, that means not making silly mistakes, that means taking your chances when they come to you, that means being a bit, you know, offensive and having a go and getting at them and not shying away. And if you see an opportunity to have a shot at goal, take it, as opposed to, you know, avoiding it and trying to look for the pass. All of that needs to happen tomorrow, because we've got to win this game of football. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button. It does only take a second if you're new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Massive thank you to everybody for watching live. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. We'll be back with the instant match reaction and the player ratings tomorrow. Enjoy your Friday night, and let's hope Everton can put a smile on our faces tomorrow. Up the fucking toffees, and we'll see you later.